Okay, I'm back. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining me today. Appreciate everybody coming on. I'm going to waste about one more minute here. I want to start right at 1 o'clock. This is Ed Crowe. Thanks. Appreciate it. Today we're going to talk about why agents should sell high deductible G. Just a couple things with this. I mean, when you send out webinars, you try to make like absolute statements, but high deductible G is important in some states more than others, like anything else. So I'll try to focus on that a bit and be realistic with you about where high G would come in very handy to have versus where it might not be as much of an issue state-wise. So anyway, we're going to talk about high G. A couple quick things. We do record all these webinars. We put them on our YouTube channel, so that's if you want, you can just Google YouTube Crowe and Associates or at Crowe Medicare. They're all up there, and we get a lot of calls from people asking if they can see a certain recording, but just go up there and you can watch them there. You can subscribe even, which would be great. If you have any questions, ask them during the webinar. I won't answer them during the webinar. As I've always said, I'm not skilled enough to do that, to talk through the slides and answer questions at the same time, but I will answer them at the end. So if during the webinar a question comes to mind, ask it then, because what tends to happen is we get done and then sometimes we end the call before people can finish getting their question in. So feel free to send it in. I'll definitely address it at the end. So our agenda today, we're going to talk about the Medicare supplement market trend in guaranteed issue states, which is a big deal for us. And that's partially part of why I wanted to talk about this topic about high deductible G, because of where things are trending in GI states like New York, Connecticut. Some states, they have partial GIs. I'll do a brief review of the high deductible F and G. The purpose of the session today isn't really to get specific about benefits. It's assuming kind of that you understand it, but just a brief review. Talk about how the math makes sense in guaranteed issue states, some non-guaranteed issue states as well. Hit the initial commissions and renewals, companies we use most often. I already mentioned that we record the webinars, and I think I already mentioned earlier that we will have a webinar tomorrow. We usually have one a week, but we'll have another one tomorrow, and we're going to focus on 2025, the 2025 Part D drug changes, which are really interesting, and how that's going to impact us as agents. Also, last thing I'll mention is we do send out an invite for our agency Zoom. I enjoy those meetings more because they're interactive. So I usually go through a couple quick topics, but then we open it up and we talk back and forth and try to answer questions and talk about subjects. So feel free to join us on that too if you'd like. So the Medicare supplement trend in guaranteed issue states. So referring to states that are either all-time guaranteed issue, that's your Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, Maine, essentially too, but all-time GI states, and also ones that have annual GI opportunities, birthday rules, various terms they use now, but they open it up once a year on a GI basis. So the trend is that commissions in a lot of these areas are being reduced. It's happening first in the all-time GI states. They're being reduced and in some cases eliminated. And unfortunately, I don't think there's any question this trend is going to continue. It's going to get worse. And it's something that we could bury our heads in the sand, but it's going to keep happening. Examples are United Healthcare and Blue Cross Blue Shield in upstate New York. They don't pay commissions at all. Well, United doesn't. Blue Cross might as well not. I mean, it's so low. But in upstate, they've more or less just eliminated commissions. So carriers reducing commissions in central New York. That had just happened if you missed. You've got a couple carriers that just made Area 2, what they call Area 2 of New York, Mid-Hudson up to Albany. They've reduced the commission a great deal. You've got companies in New York that are no longer going to offer subs. And then you've got commissions being, I said reduced, but being changed in Connecticut, where suddenly we're being age banded. And if you missed that, you should take a look. For 2024, a main carrier with supplements is going to age band commissions in New York. So anybody who you write guaranteed issue 60, over the age of 65, you're going to get a lot less commission. It's really just a matter of time. This trend is starting to grow. It's going to continue to grow, and it's going to create a problem for us people that sell in GI states. And it will slowly spread to your states that aren't full-time GI but are partial GI states, meaning they have an annual opportunity. The other thing is premiums have increased substantially. I mean, if you look at Westchester County, New York, a Plan G is about $287. It's getting crazy. In the city proper, it's even more than that. So it's gotten really expensive. So how does high G and F fit into this? Well, let's do a brief review of it, and I'll tell you why it's important when we have these trends happening. So, brief review, reminder, high deductible F is only available to people that are eligible for Medicare, that were eligible for Medicare prior to 1/1/2020. Doesn't matter if they had it or not, they just had to be eligible for it prior to 1/1/2020. If so, they can still get a high F or a Plan F for that matter. High deductible G is the one that we're going to most commonly be talking about, for those, because everybody's eligible for that. And it's available in pretty much every state with the exception of a couple of the non-standard states. There's 3 states that are non-standardized that I listed there. And high deductible G is not usually available in those states. So the concept of high G is it has a very low premium. That's one of the allures of it. It ranges from $30 to $60 a month depending on the state and the carrier. United does not offer a high deductible F or G. Other carriers that do that I'll talk about are the one we use the most is United American Globe, but also you have others. Humana offers one. In Connecticut here, you have Connecticut that offers a high deductible plan. So there's a number of carriers. We tend to focus on United American, but I'll mention them a little later. So premiums range $52 a month here in Connecticut, somewhere from $60 to $80 in New York, depending on the carrier, and then depending on the state, anywhere from $30 to $60 a month, a little lower in a few underwritten states. One thing to mention about high deductible G is I do get a lot of people who think that it's a pure deductible. They tend to think that it's literally the first $2,700 of expense, and it isn't. High deductible G allows Medicare covers what Medicare is going to cover. So, as you know, 80/20 basically. Hospital deductible, but you get the Medicare benefits when you're on a high G. So whatever's left over that Medicare doesn't cover, that's what goes towards your $2,700 out-of-pocket max. Once you hit that out-of-pocket max, you're covered in full, but it's not a true deductible. It's really more like an old school 80/20 major medical or indemnity plan. So you're getting basically 80/20 coverage. If you're out of pocket from what Medicare doesn't cover hits $2,700, you're covered in full. Recent statistics show that less than 4% of people in high F or G actually hit the deductible, which is a good thing. It's also a good thing because it reduces, kind of keeps the rate increases on the plan at a minimum because the company's offering it. They're really not needing to pay claims that often. So if you look at high G, it's a matter of doing the math. If a plan G in an area costs $258, that's $3,096 of premium, just pure premium. So, you got to throw the deductible in there, and that's a fixed cost for them. Versus a high deductible G that's $52, that's $624 of premium. So it's obviously a lot less outlay of money. But also, if you look at it, you're capped at $2,700 of expense. So worst case scenario is like $3,300 in my example, if you look at it. So, if it's a big if they max out the $2,700, yeah, they'll be slightly worse off. But the reality is they're probably not going to come anywhere close to their $2,700 because remember, they're only paying the cost share of the negotiated Medicare rates. So what's 20% of a doctor's office visit? Not much. Medicare negotiates everything, as you know. The thing that can make it add up is multiple hospital stays. Really is when you see people at their $2,700. But doing things like scans, testing, doctor's visits, they're not going to get anywhere close because the Medicare rate's so low and they're only paying 20% of that. The average senior age 65 to 69 spends about $700 a year out of pocket on Medicare cost share. Think about that number for a minute. So your average person that goes on a high deductible G, they're going to spend their premium amount and then another $700. In other words, they're going to save a ton of money. And again, worst case scenario, they're going to be a couple $100 worse off. But if you go on a plan G, and now when we compare this to plan F, it looks, you can't be worse off against a plan F. You always come out better no matter what. But when you look at the math, I mean, the math, a vast majority of the time is going to favor the person taking the high deductible plan. So high G is good for any state that has high rates on Plan G or even N. It's really good for states where there's no commission any longer. Upstate New York's an example, or super low commission, Area 2 of New York. So, upstate, if you look at it, you can't sell them a Plan G or N and get paid on it anymore. High deductible G, not only does the math make sense on it, so you're doing your client a favor, but you're also getting paid. You're helping yourself. So it's a really good option, I think, and I think it's something that's going to have to be embraced more and more. So if high deductible G is a good option for your client, it's a good option for you. The math makes sense. What are the issues? Well, there's a couple. One can be educating the client. Oh, and I just wanted to mention, I see we have some questions coming in. I will answer those at the end. So one problem can be educating the client. Sometimes they just can't get it. I sold high deductible G for a long time, and a lot of my clients could understand the concept, but some, they would call me and say, hey, I just spent, this thing doesn't work. I spent $200, and I want to say, well, you're saving, $2,500 in premium. You just spent $200, but for the year, you're on pace to spend about $500. You're going to save a ton of money, but they just couldn't grasp that concept. So that will be a challenge sometimes. And then the other challenge is the commission. It pays commission. With United American, we have a really good contract. We can give out 20 to 25%. And that's a level, by the way, lifetime level. It never goes down, and it's lifetime. But the problem is, if you're at a 23% commission, but the premium's only $60, well, you can do the math on it. So you're not going to get paid a ton, but it's better than nothing, and it is lifetime. You don't have to worry about the commission expiring. So talk about companies that offer high G and F. Well, there's a few I mentioned earlier. You've got Humana, Omaha in some areas. UHC does not offer it, and Blue Cross Blue Shield usually do not, like Anthem does not in most states. Most of the Blues don't. We tend to utilize United American, call themselves Globe in New York, same company. But we tend to utilize them. The reason being is they, in most states, have the lowest high F and G rates. So it's one carrier that we can use and know they're going to be super competitive, if not the cheapest in every single state. We also have the highest contract that you can give out on this product, so we certainly can set people up. We have some flexibility with that, and I would be happy to talk to you about it. So that's more or less the summary and why I think high G and F is important and why I think it'll become more important as time goes on. We do have one alternative to that. We obviously have exclusive access to the UHC IESNP plan. It's exclusive to PFS and Crowe agents. It's an Advantage plan that has an out-of-pocket max, depending on your state, of $1,000 to $1,600. It's a 5-star plan. It has a lot of dental, 4K of dental, 380 quarterly OTC in some areas, 200 of vision, no RX deductible. Even in Connecticut, for example, it has a $65 give back. So you got a plan that has a super low out-of-pocket, and it's eligible. You can, anybody's eligible for it as long as they can meet the criteria. So you can offer it to people with drug help, just regular people on MAs. They do have to do an assessment and get into the plan that way, but this plan can be a very good med sup replacement because of all the benefits and because the out-of-pocket max is so low, and it's 5 stars. So it works really well as an MA replacement. You can replace pretty much any Advantage plan. If you can get the person in it, it's going to have better benefits than an MA. But it also, think of it from that aspect of using it as a potential alternative or replacement for a med sup. We have a webinar on that plan on our YouTube channel if you don't know what I'm talking about, by the way. And that's it. We're done. I'm going to answer questions. If you wish to join us tomorrow, please do. I'd be happy to have you. We have our webinar at 1. We're going to talk about changes to the Part D plan for 2025. We will email out this webinar recording to everyone that attended, and let's see if we have any questions. Okay, we have one question. All right, does the Part A deductible apply to the high deductible G deductible? Yes, it does. So if you go into the hospital and you get charged the deductible for what you would if you're on original Medicare, that would go towards the deductible amount. The out-of-pocket max, we'll call it $2,700. And also keep in mind, the deductible on original Medicare for hospitalization is different than an Advantage plan. When you go in the hospital on original Medicare, you do get a 60-day grace period. So meaning if you go in the hospital, pay the deductible, the $1,700, and then go back in the hospital in 2 weeks, you don't pay the deductible again. You have a 60-day grace period. And contrary to what some people think, it does not work that way on an Advantage plan. On an Advantage plan, you don't get the 60-day grace period. So if you go on an Advantage plan, let's say you're on an Advantage plan, go to the hospital for 10 days, max out your 7 days, and then 3 weeks later you go back in, you're going to pay the hospital copay again. You don't get the 60-day grace period like you do on original Medicare. Somebody said, what is PFS? It's Pinnacle Financial Services. So Crowe and Pinnacle, we are Medicare uplines where Crowe is an FMO, Pinnacle's an NMO. What are the criteria to qualify for the UHC SNP plan? So, good question. If your client, the way they get into the UHC SNP is they either have drug help, so if they receive drug help, they should be automatically eligible, or if they have ADLs or IADLs. So if they don't have drug help, if they have drug help, they're automatically going to be eligible. If they don't have drug help, then you have to do an assessment for them. It's over the phone. And they get asked a variety of questions. And if they answer, depending on the state, yes to one or two of those questions, they would be eligible for the plan. We have information on that we certainly could send you. Somebody said, Ed, what is happening with UHC Med Subs Area 2 in 2024? Yeah, they're having a commission reduction. I'm going to do this off the top of my head, so please don't quote me exactly. I could be wrong. But I believe on Plan G, they're going to a $100 commission with a $50 renewal. And on Plan N, they're going to a $50 commission with a $25 renewal. So not good. Let's see. Somebody asked me, you're asking about a different company. I'll see if I can do this. Does the Aetna Platinum PPO make sense as alternative to MedSup? Yes, it can. It can. It was made that way. So the question is about the Aetna Platinum PPO. Yeah, it can. It can make sense as an alternative to a MedSup. That's what it was designed for. In my opinion, if you can get them into the UHC ISNP, that's better because the out-of-pocket's going to be lower. But that Aetna plan, yeah, definitely has some possibilities for that situation. Is Medicare Center and Sunfire competing enrollment platforms? Yes and no. They're from different uplines, but the Medicare Center is either using, and I'm going to forget for a minute which one, they're either using is the platform. It actually is Connector or Sunfire. I forget which. And then Sunfire. So usually they might, either Medicare Center is using Sunfire, that means they're the same company, or if they're using Connector, then they would be competitors. To answer your question. Will Globe United American be on Sunfire? No, unfortunately they will not. All our agents access Sunfire, Connector, and Medicare Bot through Pinnacle. We use Pinnacle's platform for it. They don't carry United American, we do. So we have the contract, we have the best one you can get, but it doesn't make it available on Connector or Sunfire. It is, however, on CSG. Let's see. Somebody said, so will UHC still pay what they are paying now in Area 1 in 2024? Yeah, anything existing on the books will stay the same. Does the UHC Care Advantage Plan pay commission? Hang on one second, Does the UHC Care Advantage Plan pay commission commensurate with Advantage plans? Good word, by the way. And yes, it does. It pays the same commission that is the CMS max allowable for a given state. So no difference whatsoever. Really good questions. I'll hang out here for a second to see if we get any more. Really good questions. I was able to answer all of them, and probably most of them correctly is what I'm guessing. I take no responsibility for the ones I answered wrong. I'm kind of joking, kind of. Looks like that's all we have for questions. Again, love to have you join me tomorrow. We have another webinar at 1. And if you'd like, join us for our Zoom meetings. It's, like I said, more interactive. with discussion back and forth. Oh, we got one more question. So for new biz, Area 1 Med subcommissions will go down. No, Area 2, not Area 1. So the question was regarding United Healthcare and Med Sup. It's reduced commission in Area 2, not 1. Okay. Well, thank you for coming on today. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, please email us, call us. We'd be happy to get you set up to sell high deductible GRF if you'd like. And hopefully I'll see some of you tomorrow. Have a great day.